Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? One of the questions that are usually asked when people start practicing is that, okay, now I'm practicing, but what group should I follow? What sect should I follow within Sunni Islam? Because all of these, there's so many groups, there's so many different whatever, like I'm confused. So the Prophet Muhammad has an answer for that in a long hadith, which is narrated by Hudayf bin Yaman. But I'm going to give you the bottom line. The Prophet was advising Hudayf bin Yaman how to keep away from bad things, or how to keep away from people or du'at يتكلمون بألسنتنا, that they speak with our speech, but actually هم du'at على أبواب جهنم, that they're going to be du'at, dawah carriers that are going to be calling to hell's gates basically. And he said basically to stick with the community of Muslims and their chief, stick with the community of Muslims and their imam. He said, this is very clever, Hudayfa said, what if there is no community, like cohesive community, and there is no imam? There's no imam, there's no leader. So before, back in the days, obviously we had a unified like Islamic governance and you had a leader. But now that's not the case. So this applies to us. So the Prophet Muhammad said, فَاعْتَزِلْ تِلْكَ الْفِرَقَ كُلَّهَا. He says, leave all of those groups alone. Even if you have to bite at the base of a tree, leave all of those groups alone. This is very powerful and important. The Prophet's answer therefore is don't become into sects. Why do we call ourselves Sunni? It just means, when we say Sunni, by the way, we're just differentiating ourselves from the Shia, who don't believe in certain things that we believe. Like, for example, the adl, or the just nature, the adl nature of the Sahaba, or the companions. So when we say Sunni, we just mean Sunnat al-Nabi, or the way of the Prophet, or Jama'at al-Sahaba, or the community of the Sahaba, for example, right? Ahl al-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's what we mean. It's not actually mention the Quran like the word Sunni in that sense, yeah? But that's what we mean by Sunni. We're just differentiating ourselves from those Shia who have certain different beliefs when it comes to Imama and the Sahaba, right? But the Prophet is saying, apart from this, apart from the fact that, okay, because in other hadiths he says, you know, ma ana alayhi wa ashabi, what I'm upon and my friends are upon, and stuff like that. But apart from that, don't go into sects, don't go into subsects, don't become tribal within this. Islam came to abolish that kind of sectarianism, okay? So that's your answer. Your answer is don't become sectarian. What is the biggest threat to this kind of notion of non-sectarianism that the Prophet ﷺ clearly made clear basically in his speech, in his hadith? The biggest threat to it are certain projects within Islam which are designated almost to create sectarian rift. There are different ones, and I don't have the time here to go into every different strand, sub-strand, etc. But I want to give you just one example today of a particular two projects, yeah, within Islam which are causing a lot of havoc that you need to know about. They're causing disturbance, disruption, and they're causing all kinds of problems, and they need to be treated, okay? They are cancerous, so they need to be acknowledged and dealt with. The two projects in question for me, I'm talking about here, are the Takfiri project and the Tabdi'i project. Before I get to this and tell you what those two projects are and why they are so dangerous for the Muslims, I want to mention one thing. There was a study that was conducted by Yaqeen, which is an institute in America which does great work. And it was a sociological study which was methodologically robust. It was one which investigated doubt. I'll leave a link to the description. And it asked participants, I think it was more than 600 of them, what causes most doubts for them. And they put so many things in the list. They put things like atheist arguments, women's rights, and so on and so forth. At the top of the list was basically what you would call religious dogmatism, or that there's only one way to practice religion, which falls right into notions of sectarianism. Because if you're saying there's only one way to practice, then you have to be dogmatic to make that statement. I'm not talking about the usul of the religion or things you have to be in order to become Muslim and to be practicing as a Muslim, like believing in 5 pillars of Islam and all these things. I'm talking about the minutiae, the furu'a, if you like, yeah? So that's an important thing. And the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention, that study to your attention, is to show you to the extent to which it should be our remit to deal with these individuals. Yeah, because if our remit is, okay, we're trying to keep people solid within their faith and bring people within Islam, so you can call it an evangelizing remit or an educative remit, as well as, if you want to call it that, an apologetic remit, yeah, to rationalize it to Muslims that we're afraid that will get doubt and then slippery slope down to apostasy. Then, if this is at the top of the list of things that they find doubtful about the religion, we can't ignore it. Okay, so having said that, if it's part of the remit now, we need to deal with the takfiris and the tabdi'is. Who are the takfiris? We know who they are. Takfiris are people who excommunicate people from the religion of Islam, and they do so on non-normative grounds. So for example, if someone who believes in the essential usul of the Islamic faith, and they don't add to it that which will disturb the order or the ijma' or the consensus, then they would still find some loophole to excommunicate them. And in addition to that excommunication, they'll do something called takfir tasalsuli, which is it's a chain takfir, a chain type of excommunication, which has political ramifications. The most severe of which is what we're seeing with ISIS, is what we're seeing with Al-Qaeda and these groups who actually find jurisprudential justification to kill innocent bystander people in their monstrous acts that they've been doing, mostly to Muslims, it may be added, but as well to non-Muslims in these countries as well. And so us not dealing with those, for example, will give us trouble, the extent of which has been witnessed in, let's say, for example, the previous time, or in the last 20 years, for example, especially after 9/11, etc. So these individuals, their ideas and their justifications have been, but they need to continue to be refuted on an intellectual level. We can't be thinking that that's it, it's dead now, they're not going to come back, because all it takes is a certain set of situations, political situations, yeah, and that idea will become more attractive to people once again. So that's one project of individuals that we need to deal with. Yeah, so some dogs barking up there, but you know what, it's funny that the dogs are barking, because I'm going to be speaking about some people that have been barking, and that's the second group, which is the Tabdi'i project. Now the Tabdi'i project may not be, and I'll be very clear, they're not as dramatically dangerous, obviously they're not at all from a physical perspective, political perspective, anything like the Takfiris. However, the Tabdi'is, people like those who claim to follow Rabi al-Madkhali, the S-pubs and so on, those individuals have the stated objective of classifying Muslims, Sunni Muslims who follow Sunni normative Islam, as deviants and so on and so misguided. And they do so looking at some of their alleged mistakes, mostly misrepresenting, maligning them, and classifying them as innovators and so on. So famously, they tried to do so with people like Mufti Menk and Zakir Naik and Noman Ali Khan and those individuals. They don't have an approach of, okay, they might have said some things which are correct here and some things which are not. As Malik says, كُلُّ إِنسَانٍ يُؤْخَذُ مِنْهُ وَيُرَدُّ عَلَيْهِ, that everybody you take from them and you have to refute them on certain issues, إِلَّا صَاحِبْ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ, except for the person who resides in this qabr or grave, which is the Prophet, who was pointing at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't have the attitude of nuance. Okay, let's see where he's right and let's see where he's wrong. Intellectual criticism and in an academic sense, they don't have that. They'll write you off, and they're very dogmatic. The reason why these individuals need to be warned against is because, like the Takfiris, they are Dawah traitors. They are Dawah traitors. Because if someone is spending 20 years doing Dawah, someone like Zakir Naik or someone like Bilal Phillips, yeah, or someone like Mufti Menk, so many years doing Dawah, I don't know how many years he's been doing Dawah, and has had such a positive impact on the Muslim community, and then you come along and say he's written off, he's nothing, yeah, it's not like that he's got some goodness, or there's nothing there. It's just like he's khalas, you can't listen to him, he's written off. I'm sorry, he's not even Sunni, whatever. If you're gonna say that, and you're gonna be very confident about saying that, then I say to you that you probably have something in your heart that you need to check. And jealousy is a dangerous game, especially if you play it with those du'at over there. That's what I'll say to you. Jealousy is a dangerous game, especially if you play with those du'at over there who have done more than you can ever do. Someone like Mufti Menk, who's, seriously, you can never do what he done, and you know that. It's impossible. You've reached your boiling point. And having said that now, those individuals recently got caught red-handed. And it was such a devastating embarrassment for them that they're scurrying in desperation. Because I made it as part of my project, like I do with everything else. I spend some time with the atheists, spend some time with the Christian apologists, I spend some time with the Jews, the Zionists, whatever, and I spend some time with you guys as well, because you're dangerous to you're traitors to the Dawah, you're dangerous to the Dawah. You're writing everyone off. You're attacking everybody. Who have you spared except for your mashayikh? You have spared very limited amount of people in the ummah. You're writing about everyone. And you're saying, it's an aqeedah mistake and so on. You guys are dogmatic. And your dogma leads to apostasy and doubt. Let me give you one example. One of their figureheads called Abu Ayyad the other day, I just saw on his website that he was saying that he believes in the geocentric model. He's actually gonna produce a book that's 150 page long, arguing on scientific grounds why geocentricity is correct and heliocentricity is false. Now, if you don't know the basics, of how much that is a waste of your time, that is a waste of your time. You're not gonna undo the scientific Copernican revolution, my friend. Don't think you might have delusions of grandeur, but you're not gonna do that. But you need to add to this that this dogma that you're believing in here is actually going to lead to apostasy, because someone's going to say, well, I don't believe in geocentricity. I actually believe in the weight of evidence from the scientific community. Okay. What's more than that, there's no qat'i verse in the Quran that says what you're trying to say, by the admission of the scholars you follow. For example, Ibn Uthaymeen, he said it's not qat'i in one of his shuruh and Nawawiyah's 40 hadith. Al-Albani, who you take from, he believed in the earth was moving. You say you believe in a stationary earth. So what you're saying is kufr to believe in heliocentricity. But Al-Albani doesn't believe in what you believe in. He believes that the earth is orbiting and spinning and so on.
في مسألة دوران الأرض. نحن الحقيقة لا نشك في أن قضية دوران الأرض حقيقة علمية لا تقبل جدلا. الوقت الذي نعتقد أن ليس من وظيفة الشرع عموما والقرآن خصوصا أن يتحدث عن علم الفلك ودقائق علم الفلك، وإنما هذه تدخل في عموم قوله عليه الصلاة والسلام الذي أخرجه مسلم في صحيحه من حديث أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه في قصة تأبير النخل، حينما قال لهم إنما هو ظن ظننته، فإذا أمرتكم بشيء من أمر دينكم فأتوا منه ما استطعتم، وما أمرتكم من شيء من أمور دنياكم فأنتم أعلم بأمور دنياكم. فهذه القضايا ليس من المفروض أن يتحدث عنها الرسول عليه السلام، وإن تحدث هو في حديثه أو ربنا عز وجل في كتابه فإنما لبالغة أو لآية أو معجزة أو نحو ذلك. ولذلك فنستطيع أن نقول أنه لا يوجد في الكتاب ولا في السنة ما ينافي هذه الحقيقة العلمية المعروفة اليوم والتي تقول بأن الأرض كروية وأنها تدور بقدرة الله عز وجل في هذا الفضاء الواسع. بل يمكن للمسلم أن يجد ما يشعر إن لم نقل ما ينص على أن الأرض كالشمس وكالقمر، من حيث أنها كلها في هذا الفراغ كما قال عز وجل وكل في فلك يسبحون. لا سيما إذا استحضرنا أن قبل هذا التعميم الإلهي بلفظة وكل هي تعني الكواكب الثلاث.
Because he doesn't see it as the way you're seeing it. And I'll put the description in the, I'll put the link in the description. And put this here before the battery runs out. Yeah? So what I'm trying to get at is that this dogma that these guys believe in, they're forcing you to believe in ridiculous propositions, yeah? Which is a proposition which says you have to believe in geocentricity, otherwise you're doing kufr. And believe me, that's causing grave doubt within their little community, causing apostasy, causing doubts. And you're saying you shouldn't just ignore them. No. We need to have a group of people that are dealing with these individuals on a yearly basis, just like we need to have a group of people that are dealing with takfiris. Because if we don't have a group of people that are dealing with the takfiris, then they're going to do their hedm, their deconstruction, for a very long time, for 20 years, 30 years. No one's going to reply to them, and they're going to grow. Because they're going to feel like themselves irrefutable because no one's dealing with them. And then you're going to have so-called Islamic State doing monstrous acts and killing people in the name of religion. And do we take responsibility for that? We should take some responsibility for that. Obviously, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. The Quran says one soul is not held to account for what another soul does. But if we're not doing anything about it as the Muslim community, then we shouldn't just wait and see what's going to happen. Or let's just see this group continually calling us innovators, this group calling us kafir. No, there needs to be some kind of effort. There needs to be some kind of group on social media, yeah, that are focused on this. The good news is, I actually came across a great website or great YouTube channel called SP Files. And this YouTube channel is dealing directly from what it seems to be the case. I haven't reviewed all their content, but it seems to me like they're doing this wajib that we have to do. This fard kifaya that someone has to yaqum bihi, which is exposing these individuals, exposing them for their double standards and the fact that they don't themselves have what they say they have, which is knowledge. They're not qualified, they're not scholars, and they're all, one of them, I've already exposed him last year. His name was Abu Khadija, who cannot recite the Quran, but he's doing tabdi' and talaq, doing tabdi' on the people. Listen to how he recites the Quran.
فعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا ويجعل الله فيه خيرا كثيرا.
As Allah Jalla wa Ala has stated, وَلَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رُسُولًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. قد جاءكم من الله نور وكتاب مبين يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام ويخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور.
People like him and Abu Halima have one thing in common. Abu Halima is an Anjem Chowdhury kind of supporter, and who's been doing takfir. This guy's been doing tabdiya. Both of them are the same in knowledge. They have a deficiency of it. They're not trained to do what they claim to be able to do, which is to proclaim tabdiya and takfir on the people. And they would never show themselves in public and debate anybody who opposes them. Come forward if you really believe in what you believe in, and we'll have a Quran challenge. That's the first thing you're going to do. Because the Quran says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have surely made the Quran easy for remembrance and recital and so on. So who's going to be the one to do it? So if you can't even start with that, then how can you be talking about these bigger things? You're a Dawah traitor. And you're probably jealous of all those people you've been refuting, including Zakir Naik, who you've been refuting for so many years, that you can never be half the man he is. Yeah, you can't. And you know it. So this is the reality of the situation. There needs to be people that are, look man, if someone slaps you, slap them back intellectually. I don't believe in this whole thing, I'll just leave them, ignore them. Yeah, we've got a big platform, but once in a while we throw an intellectual missile, which will make them shiver and quake in their boots and scurry out of desperation. And that's what I say is my message to people, that look, if you're really interested in knowing Islam, go to the sources. Yes, you can follow in fiqh, you can follow one of the jurisprudential schools of law, or fiqh of law like the Hanbali, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanafi. These are established. But in terms of Creed, you have to do your own homework. Don't rely upon some guy who's dropped out of university or been failed 3 or 4 times in university, and the other one who's got credentials in a completely different field, and the third one who can't recite the Quran properly. These are your figureheads. These are your figureheads. And that's why the most susceptible people to this kind of manipulation, intellectual manipulation, are those who are most weak in knowledge. Full stop. They may come and appear to be 2 or 3 people, yeah, may come out of jail. They came out of jail and they needed a job and they're relying on the handouts of those guys that might have a little bit more knowledge and might support them, but that's a different thing. So at the end of the day, what I want to say to you is be careful and follow the Prophet's advice. As for those 2 projects, us as Muslims, as these fringe groups, anti-normative practices, yeah, they need to be dealt with. We need to show the non-Muslims as well, the community, the wider community, that we're dealing with those individuals, yeah, who are maligning the religion of Islam and are posing a great barrier to entry into the religion of Islam and causing grave doubts within the Muslim Ummah for our youth. So this is the reasoning why we should be dealing with those individuals and be warned against those individuals. And they are traitors, and they should be Dawah. They are Dawah traitors. They're engaged in treachery, and they should be treated as such. They should be treated as such. And I will leave in the description box a video which I recently done exposing one of them for actually committing this one who says that you have to believe in geocentricity. Yeah. We find something of him where he's saying about Prophet Sulaiman that he done magic.
The Jews, we see that magic became part and parcel of their religion, and when they wrote the Talmud, and they, and also because the Jews were held captive by one of the kings of Babylon in the year 600. So this king, he was called Nebuchadnezzar, and he went to Jerusalem. He conquered the Jews. He took them back to Babylon. And when the Jews were in Babylon, on top of the magic they learned from Sulaiman,
Subhanallah, he done magic. He done magic, black magic, which is kufr to say this. It's kufr to say that. But he's saying that about Sulaiman, alayhi salam. Can you imagine? So we're dealing with them in the same way they try and deal with us. And this is the only way to get these guys to quieten down and to get their followers to realize that these guys are fallibles. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.